music. Allow me to share a lesson I've picked up from years of quietly observing folks around me. Those who keep their words sparse usually grasp the deepest truths. They remain still, taking it all in, music, as everyone else clutters the atmosphere with chatter. They're not detached, they're attuned. Not timid, they're strategizing. Not distant, they're safeguarding something precious, their vitality, their serenity, their insight into life. Silence, you see, isn't vacant. It's brimming with what others ignore. The nuances in voices, the subtle breaths, the brief glints in gazes. For these reserved types, speech is costly, so they dole it out with intention. If someone has ever labeled you overly silent, let this sink in, that reticence isn't a defect. It's a brand of insight that the boisterous seldom comprehend. Music. The inner workings of those who speak sparingly are complex, profound, and frequently misread. For them, quietude isn't a void in thinking, it's the burden of thoughts piling up simultaneously. Reserved individuals rarely voice anything without substance behind it. That's music. Due to their minds not merely crafting responses, they're dissecting the context prior to, amid, and beyond the exchange. Music. Who's paying attention? How might this resonate? What hidden intent lurks underneath? Music. This isn't mere rumination, it's empathy at work. Experts in psychology have explored this trait. Music. Folks who converse less often exhibit greater self-knowledge. They invest time in contemplation before responding. Music. They do feel sentiments intensely, but so profoundly that language struggles to convey the inner turmoil. And there lies the root of confusion. Our society favors amplitude. It celebrates bold declarations, resounding views, and larger-than-life demeanors. Yet the reserved soul recognizes a truth many miss. Clamor doesn't signify substance. Music, verbosity doesn't validate concepts. And the strongest messages are sometimes those unspoken. Ponder that. Music. In every gathering, there's that individual who contributes little verbally. But when they contribute, the room hushes in anticipation. That's no accident. It's authority gained via restraint. Silence fosters impact, and impact creates pull. Reserved people function on another level. They spot music subtleties that escape notice. A shaky grip during dialogue, a pause prior to utterance, the vibe alteration upon an arrival. It's like they decode the unspoken dynamics of interaction. Music. No sorcery here, just keen awareness of patterns, derived from watching, not dominating. Music, curtailing speech hones your intellect. You tune into the unsaid. You sense concealed emotions, and that grants a unique strength. Music. The strength to comprehend sans critique, to connect sans dominance, and to pierce the facades others don. Music. Yet consider this. Reserve doesn't imply inner tranquility. For plenty, muteness acts as armor. Music, a method to harness turmoil. Outwardly serene, inwardly, it's a symphony of ideas, scenarios, recollections, music, and concerns swirling together. Hence, the deliberate delays before words emerge. They seek balance before expression. Certain researchers' music suggest that such personalities lean toward introversion, which isn't shyness or withdrawal. It's about conserving vitality. They restore through aloneness. They thrive in mental quietude. Excessive clamor, spoken or felt, depletes them. Thus, they select phrases like, "A painter picks hues, thoughtfully, with intent, methodically," not for enigma's sake. Music for accuracies. Since for the reserved, utterances hold gravity, and once released, they're irrevocable. Still, quiet can stem from profounder origins, an upbringing marked by miscommunication, an existence dotted with instances where voicing out brought dismissal or mockery. Music. So rather than battle for attention, they master hearing, scrutinizing up front, articulating afterward. Music, or perhaps not at all. Gradually, this evolves from routine to a coping strategy. Music. Once you realize listeners often prepare retorts over true comprehension, silence offers security. and that security turns familiar. But don't music confuse this security with frailty. For in that hush resides one of humanity's scarcest gifts, the capacity to deliberate prior to responding. Amid a culture fueled by snap judgments and fervent reactions, that's extraordinary prowess. Those who verbalize less generally excel in self-control metrics, the mental skill of curbing urges. They endure ire, irritation, or thrill without it dictating their speech. Music. They halt, ponder, and select terms with exacting care. Music. That's not inertia, it's command. And that's why countless brilliant philosophers, authors, and trailblazers throughout history started as keen watchers before they ever became vocal. They dwelled in the serene spaces of their thoughts, music linking concepts that escaped everyone else's notice. After all, quietness sparks wisdom. It's amid the calm that imagination flourishes, profound reflections emerge, and music comprehension matures. Truth gets drowned out by turmoil. You can only catch it in tranquility. Yet, truthfully, music staying silent in our modern era is tough. Folks view hush as uncomfortable. Music. They rush to stuff every break with chatter, every quiet instant with opinions. Music. And if you don't keep pace with that beat, folks tag you as odd, aloof, or standoffish. But suppose music keeping quiet isn't a glitch in social flow. Imagine it's a superior cadence, a rhythm that absorbs more than it utters, music that comprehends prior to responding. Since hush doesn't signal inactivity, it signals profound internal activity. Music. Perhaps that's the reason reserved individuals forge such intense bonds once they, music, eventually voice themselves. Each phrase they offer has passed through contemplation, compassion, and authenticity. They're not aiming to dazzle. They're seeking to convey with raw honesty, precision, and gentleness. Research from the University of Helsinki reveals that those inclined toward introspection and reticence display elevated neural engagement in areas linked to empathy and self-examination. Music. So their quiet isn't void, it's active contemplation. They're not merely attuned to others, they're also attuned to their own inner voice. Music. Still, such self-examination carries a price. Seeing, hearing, and sensing so keenly means shouldering a heavy load. Reserved folks frequently shoulder unseen burdens. Music. They turn into feeling absorbers, soaking up all the vibes nearby. The strain in the air, the sorrow in a tone, the vibe of dialogue. Music. No wonder alone time restores them. It's not isolation. It's music, a cleanse. And still, their affections run profound when they give them. Their concern is authentic. When they step up for others, it's driven by true commitment, music, not duty. It's rooted in a soul-deep grasp as they skip the superficial. They bypass chit-chat, but music, they embrace substance. If you've crossed paths with such a soul, one who murmurs gently, yet their insights linger in your thoughts long after, they cherish silence not as a void, music, but as a blank slate. They invite you to etch your reality there. They hear not to reply, but to truly observe. That's uncommon. Yet here's the twist. Music. Reserved souls yearn for bonds but dread misinterpretation. They, music, long to be noticed, yet not thrust into the glare. They seek to be understood but not overwhelmed by clamor. Thus, they often pull back, not from indifference but from overwhelming investment. It's not that they lack views or passions, they simply savor them completely before revealing. And upon sharing, it feels almost holy, as you're not just catching utterances, you're glimpsing burdens they've held in seclusion for ages. If you're among the reserved, hold this close. You owe no one clamor to validate your value. Power doesn't demand eloquence. Your quiet needs no justification. It reveals itself through your awareness, your emotions, your insights. Hush isn't absence. It's another tongue, a subtler mode of declaring, quote, and at times that conveys more than any speech. Ultimately, it's not the volume music of your words that counts. It's the depth of your ties, and those who inhabit quietude often forge the strongest ones. They simply do so in a manner the world has lost the art of recognizing. But there's a richer layer music to this reticence, something concealed under the composed demeanor and measured words. It's a narrative that psychology is just starting to unpack. For behind most reserved individuals lies a lengthy legacy of clamor. Not the outer kind, the inner sort, the turmoil born from childhoods in spaces where talk overran listening, where feelings weren't dialogues, they erupted. Thus, the reticent mastered safeguarding their serenity by retreating inward, and once quiet becomes refuge, it turns into sanctuary. Truth is, many reserved types didn't arrive that way innately. They evolved into it. In psychological terms, it's termed adaptive silence, a safeguard where your psyche discovers that minimal expression preserves safety. But gradually, it transcends mere shield, it shapes essence. That's why reserved people often seem enigmatic or inscrutable. They've devoted years refining their private realm, so the external rarely gains complete entry. It's not concealment, it's demarcation. And those demarcations aren't barriers, they're sieves. Only those who genuinely attune, they can't always step into the spotlight of a noisy gathering. Yet, the magic and sorrow lie here. Those reserved folks experience emotions intensely, but share them only in whispers. That's why they blend into the background amid all the clamor. Ironically, they're the ones who pick up on your hurt with just a glance. They spot the falseness in your grin. They sense when your chuckle masks deeper troubles, since they dwell in watching, not just responding. In the field of psychology, it's known as high sensitivity, or HSP, highly sensitive person. Studies indicate that about 20% of people possess this quality. It involves amplified sensory perception and emotional reactivity. Put plainly, they catch it all. Every subtle vocal change, every fleeting facial cue, every shift in the vibe. Their nerves absorb details without any barrier. That's precisely why they speak less. Their minds are always sifting through far more input than others might grasp. Each exchange packs a multitude of clues, the words chosen, the omissions, the delivery, the motives behind it. It's draining. So, quietness serves as their way to recharge. But don't confuse it with inaction. History's biggest thinkers were often silent watchers. Albert Einstein once noted, "The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind." And he's spot on. Stillness isn't void. It's a nurturing phase. It's the room where concepts grow before they're voiced. When a reserved individual at last offers their insights, it's typically the essence of prolonged pondering, spanning hours, days, or years. Their statements aren't off the cuff. They're honed to precision. That's what gives them such impact. They contribute seldom, but when they do, it's like receiving a gem they've carefully shaped deep within. However, this talent carries isolation. In our rushed society, calm can get viewed as apathy. Folks misinterpret reserve as aloofness. They assume quiet equals withdrawal. What escapes them is that these individuals are frequently the most attuned presences around. Their hush isn't separation, it's profundity. They're not drifting off, they're focusing sharply. They're attuned to nuances others overlook, the flow of dialogue, the gaps in between, the authenticity in delivery. To them, talking is a craft, not an impulse, and that elevates them as masterful connectors, though not in the usual way. Reserved types shine in unspoken exchanges. Their gaze conveys volumes, their being does the rest. They can soothe without uttering a syllable. True compassion, after all, relies on being there, not noise, and they deliver it fully. You sense their concern from a reserved person. It's evident in how they recall minor things you shared ages back. It's shown in their attentive hearing, not plotting their reply, but truly seeking to comprehend. And that quality leaves a lasting mark. Still, quiet has its darker side. For certain ones, it turns into a wall. They start seeing restraint as a shield, believing that skipping speech dodges exposure. They dread that opening up might bear too much, reopen old hurts, or spark confusion. Thus, they bottle it all until the weight of unsaid words outweighs any noise. That's the riddle of the introspective spirit. They yearn to be understood, yet shielded. They seek bonds, yet shun turmoil. They desire to be listened to, yet evade scrutiny. So they linger openly, seen but overlooked. From a mental health angle, this push-pull between sharing and holding back sparks internal turmoil. It's a reason why many introverted souls grapple with rumination or worry, not from frailty, but from the ongoing effort to harmonize profound feelings with outward poise. They absorb excessively and voice minimally. And that divide, the void between inner turmoil and outward calm, can foster a wordless sorrow. Yet, this very reserve can prove their finest guide. Through quiet, they discover lessons that the outspoken seldom learn, that comprehension doesn't always demand words, that simply being there can echo louder than speech, that waiting uncovers truths reaction never touches. In silence, you tune into existence's finer threads, the faint exhale signaling defeat, the glint in eyes during a passion's recount, the quiver in tone amid feigned resilience. You perceive the world not as mere happenings, but as an orchestra of sentiments. Such insight renders you both insightful and delicate. Perhaps that's the bargain. Perhaps hush grants sagacity at the expense of ease. For once you perceive abundantly, you can't erase it. And once you comprehend profoundly, innocence slips away forever. Still, this renders reserved people vital anchors in our midst. They offer serenity amid frenzy. They provide reflection where impulses dominate. They provide. In spaces where everyone else creates clamor, they offer a serene presence. During an era when folks compete to outshout one another, they highlight the strength found in quietude. There's an air of self-assurance in allowing pauses to linger, a form of resilience in not dominating every exchange. That's the subtle force, the silent music conviction that honesty doesn't require raising one's voice. Next time you encounter someone who speaks sparingly, resist thinking they lack insights. Perhaps they're gauging the situation thoughtfully. Perhaps they're giving you room to share music because they genuinely value your perspective. Or perhaps they're observing your delivery as it reveals more about your character than your actual statements. You'll recognize them when they appear. They'll hear you out without bias. Their gaze will make you feel truly acknowledged. Their replies will act like reflections. Music. They'll show you that quiet isn't emptiness, it's focus. And if you're among those individuals, if you've ever sensed you don't mesh well because you music express less verbally than the crowd, know this: society requires your presence. Your reticence counters its frenzy. Your calm revives its clarity. Your introspection enriches its awareness. Music. No need to alter yourself to fit in. Simply recognize your quiet for its essence. A distinct method of bonding. Not more boisterous, not quicker, but more profound. In the end, people don't recall the most talkative voices. They cherish those who stirred the deepest emotions. And the reserved types achieve that with ease. They communicate via actions. They soothe through mere being. They convey via empathy. Sometimes, that's all it takes. Perhaps the true motive behind their minimal words isn't timidity or fear, but a deeper realization. Music, language can articulate ideas, yet quiet uncovers reality. And reality doesn't always demand utterance to be sensed. To those introspective viewers tuning in, music, stay true to your nature. Avoid hurrying to occupy the voids. Allow the world to attune to your rhythm, for quiet isn't life's void. It's the space where life inhales music amid the phrases. And perhaps therein resides the most genuine insight, in the intervals, the tranquility, the instances of unspoken clarity where all becomes clear without a sound.